Welcome to the Uninvited Voice podcast. Grace and peace, everyone. I couldn't wait to get on here and tell this. Today, Candace Owens did a podcast, and this time she's focusing on Emmanuel Macron. She won't back down off of the Brigitte Macron thing, but now she's added a twist to it in saying that Emmanuel, the husband, is gay. And she asserts that he had a sugar daddy and all kinds of weird stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, why won't she back down from this? It's really odd. And in light of how she met this husband of hers, George Farmer, after 17 days, he proposed on FaceTime. They never went out on any dates. And they met one time after she spoke at an engagement in London. And through FaceTime, all of a sudden they fell in love and got married. Now, it doesn't take a genius to know that any woman, when faced with the opportunity to marry a multimillionaire that they don't know, that may be an absolute creep or a perv or something, would probably jump on the opportunity just for the money. And a lot of them would probably not think twice about having a bunch of kids right in a row in order to seal the deal and maintain a space. So I've been thinking about all of this, and I'm wondering, is he pushing her up to this? What in the heck is the deal with Candace and this schizophrenic turnaround that she's done, in which she started out full speed ahead? Everyone thought, wow, this is a media darling. She has the fluency. She has the looks. She can debate. But the only thing that we all missed is that fluency does not equal intelligence. Yes, she can parrot talking points, and it seems as if that's what she's been doing all along. She flip-flops. She goes wherever the money is and wherever the opportunity to be seen is. Unfortunately, based on some stuff that I've uncovered, and other people are talking about it on X and otherwise, I think Candace probably needs to simmer down a little bit. Especially once you start calling someone gay, and with all of the feigned outrage she has about Brigitte Macron and their relationship and how she used to be his teacher, she probably needs to pipe down a little bit, because based on what people are saying, she doesn't really have room to talk. And when I say this, I was thinking about the other day, she had Milo Yiannopoulos on her show. And Milo and she had a falling out, I believe, last year, 2024. And I remember that they were having some words thrown back and forth. So I found it odd that she would be on her podcast, So at any rate, I looked it up. And what Milo was saying was that her husband was gay. Now, when you start hearing it, you're like, maybe he's just saying that, whatever. Now, Milo, of course, was gay. He was a very popular far-right podcaster and very, very gay. And usually, based on my understanding of gay men, when a gay man tells you that a man is gay, especially if they know them, you best believe him, because he probably knows something that you don't. And if you don't really know him and you didn't know him before you married him, which she didn't, then she probably missed something with her gaydar and stuff. So I'm going to read you some texts, not text, but some posts from X. This one was June 26, 24, and this is from Milo. It says, I want to make something clear, Candace. When I said your husband was gay, I was looking at him. I wasn't looking at him, I was looking at you. The next post was from July 11th, 2024. And it says, it's disgraceful that Candace thinks she has an F pass simply because her husband is a Nancy boy. I mean, when I think of the work I had to put in for that thing, I don't know what that part is about, but it sounds hella suspect to me. The next one was in August 19th, 2024, and it says, Candace is a wealthy woman who could have done anything and had anything. Her marriage made almost anything possible for her, but she has a fatal flaw that resurfaces anytime she's operating without a strong male oversight. She doesn't know she's stupid. Then you have another one on that very same day. It says, at the Daily Wire, Candace was waxed, tweezed, plucked, and together, on course to maybe one day be as big as a network anchor in her own way, despite her obvious mental and emotional shortcomings. Plus, obviously, the Loco for Cocoa Puffs Ice, B-I-T-C-H, vibe of having a gay husband. So, there's another one. Same day, it says, let me tell you something. Candace Owens' husband is getting plunged, and he put that in all caps there. So, in seeing him on her podcast, as well as seeing Nick Fuentes the week before, and her sitting up there sort of looking coonish, I said, I remember the altercation between Milo, and I'm like, well, what in the heck is she doing now? First, she's on here, asserting that the First Lady of France is a man, trying to call her an offender. And even though they're both grown, and I believe they were both adults when they got married. And, after that, after a certain time, yes, it may seem skittish, it may seem very cringe, but they were both adults when they got married. They're adults now. She's 72. I believe he's up in his 50s or something. It's time to mind your business. At that point, it's none of your business. You can't just go ahead and start conjuring up things of the past in order to have something to hate someone about. I don't know what happened between the two of them or what made her jump on this, but it just doesn't seem right. It almost seems like he's pulling some marionette strings, her husband there. Now, I didn't really think much of the Milo situation. And then after I saw the post, I'm like, maybe there's something there, because you know when a gay man says that your husband is gay or your boyfriend is gay, you best listen to him. But there was another one. There's this guy named Raheem Kassam or Raheem Kassam, and I believe he's an editor of various right-wing news outlets. He may have been, the way I understand it, he was one of the founders or co-founders of Brietbart, which was Steve Bannon's magazine. And he wrote, this one is a fairly recent one, I believe, but he wrote, don't get me wrong, I think it's cringe, and so is that fraud Candace Owens, who blocked me for telling the truth about her sham marriage. But on balance, it's funnier to watch these big men reduced to tears over a t-shirt. Now, that's not the whole of it. It gets worse. He says, LMAO, how are you all just learning about this? I called her out on her hubby trying to grope me and kiss me multiple times. She blocked me for it. So, after that, another poster named Know Thyself says, are you gay, Raheem? Serious question. Thought you were straight, but hey. Raheem responds, no, he is gay. I am straight, hence the complaint. Try and keep up. Here's another one that he posted in November 20th, 2022, right? Raheem Kassam. It says, I know more about this world than I care to. Mercer tried to get me to tell Bannon to shut up about populist nationalism. I was the guy who hired Milo at BNN, which is Brietbart. Farmer, meaning George Farmer, Candace Owens' husband. Farmer has sexually assaulted me. Candace blocked me for calling her sham marriage out. I know this from all angles. So then another poster asked him, why would Candace marry someone who is pretending? doesn't seem like her. However, I trust you more than her after she bashed President Trump and stabbed him in the back. And she's done it again, of course. This was in November of 2022. He says, yes, I wonder why perennial grifter Candace Owens would want to marry into a family of a wealthy British lord. Very difficult to figure this out. So, in other words, he's insinuating that she married for money. Now, you got two men there. One straight, one gay, who is now professing that he is an ex-gay. Both of them saying that her husband is gay. In the meantime, she's sitting on social media trying to point the finger at Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron. And she's still on a continuum with this story, with this conspiracy theory. You know, the thing about Candace that really disappointed me is that I really had high hopes for her. I was really happy to see her come on the scene. She was a breath of fresh air. She wasn't, the typical liberal with the constant talking points about trans and Latinos and Native Americans and all of the different things, this whole people of color identitarian movement. She wasn't one of those people. And although she parroted talking points, it seemed as if they went farther because they were coming from her, being that she passed as a Black American woman and she was talking to Black Americans, only to find out that she's actually Caribbean, which is a little problematic in itself. Well, I'll back up a little bit. Her grandfather is from Georgia and her maternal line is Caribbean. And she passes as Caribbean, on her modeling agent smack sheet, she has Caribbean written down. So that is how she identifies. So although she identifies as Caribbean, we accepted her and she kept using her grandfather's image as a sharecropper in order to, use these talking points and lift herself to a certain visibility based on berating Black Americans. And don't get me wrong, there is a lot about Black Americans that needs to be said. People are not the only people that have Black fatigue, because I've had it for a long time. That said, she grifted her way into the spotlight, attacking Black Americans. And of course, this was years after she used the NAACP in a case involving an ex-boyfriend after they got into an altercation and there were some racial terms or some racial harassment on his part. And she used them to sue the school district for not protecting her, only to turn around years later and say that they were friends and this was all a misunderstanding after she got the money, of course. So we see how she flip-flops. She went in and she said now she's a conservative, did this grand video during, the Trump era, the first administration of Trump, lifted her way into the spotlight. She did really well when questioned by Congress when they were, doing I think it was the Virginia altercation that happened with the far right, and they were trying to insinuate that she was a Nazi, and she did really well. She really has great debate skills. She's very fluent in the English language. She has a rapid fire way of speaking that holds your interest, and she has a very big vocabulary. But at the same time, I think what Candace did was, instead of cultivating herself as she went along, after using all of these talking points, going from one set of talking points to the next, what she ended up doing was not cultivating herself, although she name drops Freud nowadays. And Freud, who the heck is Freud? As someone who studies psychology and with a degree in psychology, Freud is nothing. She should be looking into Schopenhauer, Jung, and, trying to combat the things coming from the left, such as Nietzsche and Derrida, but she's not doing that. I don't know if she just doesn't have the time or if she's just intellectually lazy, but she has not tried to do that, and instead she has plunged herself into conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, and she won't let up because she knows that that's how the money comes in. She gets clicks, she gets elevated, She gets, attention, media attention, and now everybody knows about her all over the world. But it's slowly coming to a decline because now, instead of being known as this up-and-coming future politician who she hadn't made, who actually married a multi-millionaire, what she's doing now is she's descending into a space in which people are starting to look at her as if she's some kind of a kook. The same way they do with Alex Jones. People really don't pay much attention to him anymore, especially now that he's bankrupt. Now, I don't know if George Farmer coerced her into signing a prenuptial, but it's highly probable. She does have, a few million herself, but when you marry someone that you barely know who may actually be gay, you don't know that because you don't know him at all. You married him after 17 days. Anything can happen. If this thing blows out and she doesn't draw back and they sue her successfully and take all of the money she has, and then he decides that your visibility is a little bit too much for our legacy here in Great Britain, and we don't want to destroy our family legacy, and then kicks her to the curb, then where is she going at that point besides alimony, living off of alimony? Because no one is going to take her seriously. But when you start attacking someone, not only attacking someone's sexuality, but also insinuating that this man is gay. Now, first, she's saying that he was groomed into a relationship by his current wife, Brigitte Macron, but she also is casting doubt on this woman's femininity. Now, another thing that I find very odd that a lot of people don't pick up on, it seems as if the left and the right both push the same agenda, but in different ways. The left wants you to believe that there's no difference between males and females. All right, that everything is fluid and you can just choose on one day what you want to be. The right, on the other hand, feigns outrage and claims, oh, well, men and women are different and stuff. But the thing about it is that they have this constant knack, this uncanny knack for holding up biological women and saying and acting as if they can't tell whether or not they're looking at a man or a woman. Right? So they do all of these stupid videos looking at shadows, looking for penises and whatnot. And what they're doing is the same thing, is furthering the agenda. Now, if you notice, the LGBT community is angry at Brigitte Macron for even filing this lawsuit because they say that it undermines their presence. They say that it seems as if she's insulted to be called a transgender. So they feel as if it undermines their status. But you notice that they're very quiet when these insults, I call them insults, are being hurled at her. No biological woman wants to be called a Build-A-Bear, And what people like Candace, and I question why Candace is doing something like that, especially now if it does come to light that her husband is in fact gay, and she's pushing this narrative towards Brigitte Macron and now saying that Emmanuel Macron is gay. It seems as if she is pushing an underhanded agenda. When you continuously hold biological women up and say that you can't tell the difference, then you are pretty much saying the same thing that the left is saying. You're saying that there's no difference, we can't tell the difference, and it's fluid. That's what you're saying. And for all the stupid people on Facebook and otherwise who continue to push these narratives and hold these women up, whether or not it's Michelle Obama, whether or not it's Brigitte Macron, whoever the heck it is, you're holding up middle-aged and elderly women up and acting as if you can't tell, not knowing that your funky ass is going to look the same way, if not worse, when you get old. So when you start doing stuff like this, you're just undermining yourself, your own message, but it seems as if they're all together in pushing this agenda. So it makes me wonder about Candace. It makes me wonder how much she actually knows about her husband. Is he pulling some kind of marionette strings? Anyway, Inside the video, if you stop, you'll be able to look at each one of the posts to verify that they are there and that they did come from the actual people. All right, ciao, ciao. Let me know how you feel about it. Take care.